Militia crew, what it do, what it do, what it do. Man, the coaching search is heating up in Las Vegas. We have some quarterbacks that are declared for the draft. Like I said yesterday, we will talk about the offensive line. We will talk about, of course, the coaching candidates. The Raiders have interviewed a surprise candidate today. We will get into that. Also, Clint Kubiak is on that list and more. So stay tuned. We will break that down. We will get into that. Appreciate everybody. I don't know if y'all can hear me. Well, what's good? What's good, man? So, yeah, we got a lot to talk about in the news. Raiders heating up. We have offensive linemen is a big topic. Also, another huge topic that came about the Las Vegas Raiders offensive line with Geno Smith meeting privately to try to do better because of Brandon Carroll's coaching. We will have thoughts on that, of course, and much more, much more. Of course, the Lakers play today, so we got the Lakers gear on. We'll be watching that, breaking that down. Arkansas Razorbacks play today. We'll be watching that, breaking that down. But there are a lot of talks about Arch Manning. Teams trying to get him declared for the draft. Stay tuned for that. Um, but the most important, man, the most important is the coaching list, right? Who is going to be the next Las Vegas Raider coach? So, the Raiders will interview today, wasting no time, right? Getting right into it, straight off the rip. Unleashed Raider was good, was good. But yeah, the Raiders, wasting no time, straight off the rip, will be interviewing Davis Webb. Who is Davis Webb? Well, stay tuned for that. Navy Vet, appreciate you. We're going to break down Davis Webb, what he does, where he is, where he's from, and why this 30-year-old man with only 3 years coaching experience in the NFL is a high commodity, like somebody else that was a high commodity that used to be the so-called quarterback whisperer. So we're going to break that down. But the Las Vegas Raiders will interview today. I'm sure it already happened. It might be still going on. Who knows? Um, I don't know if it's a phone interview. I don't know. I'm pretty sure it's a phone interview because he does still coach for the Denver Broncos, and they do play the next week. But shout out to the Raiders for getting straight to business, man. They already got a list of people, and here it is. Like to hear it. Here we go. Davis Webb, like I talked about, they will interview today. They will also interview next. This Thursday will be offensive coordinator for the Kansas City Chiefs, Matt Nagy. Shout out for our 2026. Also, another Broncos defensive coordinator will be in the building as well on Thursday. Defensive coordinator Vance Joseph, former head coach, has coaching experience, has the Broncos pretty much top notch defense in the NFL right now. Sitting at a bye week, relaxing, getting ready, getting their team rested. But interesting name. We've talked about it before, of course, on this channel is Vance Joseph. Also, the biggest name that everybody's waiting to hear, right? The Las Vegas Raiders will interview on Friday Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak. There is also three more other requests as well. Friday and Saturday appear to be the days. They don't have the names yet. This is from Ian Rappaport. But we have some interesting news on one of the candidates, Davis Webb. We'll be talking about that. Um, but more importantly, man, more importantly right now, I think is Ty Simpson. Ty Simpson, Alabama quarterback, has declared for the NFL draft. Will he be in the first round? That's a huge question. Did he get good advice? That's even a bigger question. So let me know in the comments what you think about quarterback from Alabama, Ty Simpson. who in his last in his last 4 games, 5 games, 6 touchdowns, 1 interception. They got absolutely blown out by a top defense. Lawrence was good. Stephen was good. They got absolutely blown out by a top defense in the in the NFL, in college football. In Indiana, knocked the doors off them. Right, Ty Simpson did not look good. He had a couple stretches where he looked like one of those guys. But if you watch the film on Ty Simpson, right, there was only a couple games against, they lost against some bad teams they shouldn't have lost against, which is why they weren't in the college championship, right? I mean, um, why they barely made it. But they lost against, some tough teams. He played a couple stretches of games where he was lights out, but he doesn't really have any of those traits like a Joe Burrow, like a like a Patrick Mahomes, like a Josh Allen, right? There's nothing that really stands out about this kid. He has average mobility, average arm strength. He has very little starts as a quarterback in college football. Good weapons around him, a solid offensive line, good head coaching. But is he a Mac Jones, right? I mean, look at Mac Jones. Where was he drafted? In the first round, but he was 17-0. He beat Ohio State in the national championship. They won a national title, not um, you know, not losing a game. To me, that's a special quarterback, right? That's a quarterback that no matter how many snaps under his belt, you're looking like, man, come in, beat Ohio State, right? The favorite to win the title. That was Mac Jones, though. Where's Mac Jones at now? He's bounced around the NFL, bounced around the NFL. I don't believe Ty Simpson has traits like a Mac Jones, like a Caleb Williams, like a like a Jaden Daniels, right? So I don't know what information he got in his camp, but man, declaring is probably not the way. Not the way. His ceiling is Sam Darnold. I mean, that's a pretty good ceiling if you're looking at Ty Simpson's ceiling. But how long is it going to take to get to the Sam Darnold ceiling? 5 years like Sam Darnold did, 6 years, 3 teams. Like, is that worth taking a chance? In the first round or the second round? I don't know. I just don't. I don't feel like that's you know. To me, that's not worth taking a chance on in the first or even the second round. That's less starts than Geno Smith. That's less starts than Sam Darnold. That's less starts than Sanchez. That's less starts than, a lot of these guys that came out way too early. So if you're comparing, experience in college football to the NFL, I'm gonna say it was the right move, the wrong move for Ty Simpson. I think another year definitely would have been the right situation. He had opportunities with teams. He said even Oregon, which is kind of a makes you question, right? Is Dante Moore going to declare? After these championships are over, if they lose, if they win, that'll be another story tomorrow to talk about. But I believe Ty Simpson, possibly made the wrong move, bro. And if you're looking at the quarterbacks next year, then maybe he made the right move, right? We've talked about the list. We talked about it 3 days ago. We broke it down. We might even go over it before I get off here again tonight. But the list of quarterbacks that are entering the NFL draft or possibly could enter the NFL draft next year is a long, crazy list of athletic, arm talent, tough, you know, just a whole list of everything you can want: pocket passers, mobility, um, smart, intelligent, right? And a lot of these guys are transferring to other schools to better themselves. So next year's draft is gonna be nasty. And we've talked about Fernando, until my ears bleed. And now at least there's somebody else to talk about, right? Ty Simpson. However, I have somebody else I want to talk about, and maybe Lawrence will like this, maybe not. Well, let's do a little something, something, a little something right here. Excuse me for the silence. I don't know why I had three different things up and it's on my phone. So, but yo, check this out. There's only talk of certain quarterbacks, right? In this NFL draft, the only name you hear is Fernando Mendoza. The only second name you hear is Dante Moore. But Fernando Mendoza, uh, ranked versus AP top 25 teams. He's averaging 174 yards a game. Not bad, right? Completion ratio versus AP top 25 teams. 72.7. That's pretty high, right? It's not as high as, say a Mac Jones who set the record for completion ratio as a rookie at Alabama. Um, Passing yards versus AP top opponents. 704. Touchdowns. 7. Fernando Mendoza, right? Next up, we have shit. Who was the other one? um, Mac Jones did have some good ass receivers though. Devontae Smith. So Dante Moore, right? Is he coming out? Is he staying? Is he going? What's he gonna do? Yards this season, 3,280 yards. He has 28 passing touchdowns to 9 interceptions with a 79.4 QBR. What's good? What's good? Appreciate you, Brad. Um, but through the playoffs, right? Through the playoffs, um, ranking versus top 25 opponents, he has 139.7 yards. He only has a 69.9 completion ratio versus top 25 teams, which is pretty damn solid, man. Anyway, passing yards, 691 to 6 touchdowns. That's up there, right? That's up there with Mendoza. Not much difference. Trinidad Chambliss. Trinidad Chambliss has 3,660 yards, 21 touchdowns, only 3 interceptions. It's pretty solid with the 86.8 QBR. Versus top 25 teams, he has averaged 125.1 yards a game. Completion ratio is only 55.5. Damn. Damn. Passing yards, first top 25 opponents, 892 yards. Yes, he's ran for a little bit of yards, but not much. And only 3 touchdowns. So a lot of talk on Trinidad, his Rick, my guy, was good. Appreciate you. You know, I think it's more of his athleticism, his toughness, his ability to move her in the pocket and make plays kind of like, like a Caleb Williams type, right? Like a Patrick Mahomes type, is why I'm so high on Trinidad Chambliss. But the guy that's not being talked about whatsoever as being a top or a first round quarterback in this year's draft, right? He's not in the first round, he's not in the second round. And I think some people have him even as the third round quarterback. But let's talk about Carson Beck, right? His numbers at Georgia are absolutely insane, right? And he's done this pretty much every single year. 2023, he had 3,941 yards. He had 24 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. 2024, with a 72.4 completion ratio. Not bad at all. 2024, Carson Beck had a 64.7 completion ratio with 3,485 yards. Better than Mendoza. But he was playing with Georgia, so it is a little bit different. Um, with 28 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. The interceptions are going up, right? 2025, 74.4 completion ratio, 3,313 yards, 8.3 average per attempt with 27 touchdowns, 10 interceptions. His long was 61 with the RTG of 61.37. Why is Carson Beck not in any conversations to be drafted in the first round? Can somebody explain this to me? We hear all the talk about Mendoza. We hear all the talk about Dante Moore. But we hear no talk about Carson Beck. He has Miami in the playoffs. They're still in it. There's only 4 teams left. He's one of those 4 teams. But yet you hear Trinidad Chambliss' name coming out, possibly got to come out if he doesn't get another year. You hear Dante Moore's name over and over again. You hear Fernando Mendoza. He's the only number 1 pick in this draft. But somebody that has more experience, that's played on damn good franchises, that didn't he win a national championship? Did Georgia win in 2023 or somebody else? Anyways, Carson Beck, man, I think is way, way underrated. Shout out to everybody in the building. Please double tap the screen, hit that like, subscribe if you're not subscribed, if you're picking up what I'm putting down on this kind of content. But let me know, man. Let me know in the chats. How do y'all feel about Carson Beck? Hey, maybe it's Tracy from the clip. Got your kids. You funny. Let's go Raiders. If you could play any instrument, what would it be? I play electric guitar and piano. I played bass, growing up. I haven't played in probably 10 years, but I played bass, played a little guitar. So I don't know. Probably guitar. Shout out for playing guitar. Late third. That's not bad. That's not bad. Zoo! Let's go. Let's go Raiders. What up, my guy Rick? I have given him too much credit. Maybe Matt Leinart. Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's kind of more what I'm thinking, but not the size though. He's only 6'1" and a half, right? 215, 18 pounds. Um, he's not a big guy, man. He's not a big guy. He's kind of like a Bo Nix, but he doesn't have the Bo Nix traits, right? That I've seen. I mean, at times you see traits, but it's not consistent, and that's a problem. It's a huge problem. He's not very good at head coach. Who's not very good at head coach? Grudon? Okay, okay, let's get to that. I know everybody has clicked in, popped in for the thumbnail. The coach in the picture is none other than the Broncos quarterback coach, Davis Webb. He is a guy that played NFL football as a quarterback, right? He is a guy that a lot of people don't know. Davis Webb was the starter for Texas Tech before Patrick Mahomes took over. Davis Webb got injured. Patrick Mahomes took over. Davis Webb never got his job back, right? He's had a pretty decent career. He got to the NFL. He was drafted, I do believe, by the Giants, then played for the Jets, then played for the Giants again, and then I think played for the Bills. So he's played for 4 teams, 3 teams in the NFL. So he has that experience, right? And a lot of people are wondering how this man went from quarterback coach, and we'll get to the backstory here in a second, but he went from NFL quarterback, backup quarterback, to retiring to getting a job instantly with the Denver Broncos under Sean Payton. Now, if you know anything about Sean Payton, well, if you don't know, now you're going to know. Sean Payton has a very, very tight knit circle. A lot of the guys that have been with him throughout his coaching career are still the guys that are with him in his coaching career. He don't let a lot of people in. He does not hire a lot of new coaches. He keeps people that knows his system, that knows what he's trying to accomplish, and that could, teach it to the players, to the other coaches in the building. Sean Payton, we all know what he's done with quarterbacks, what he's done with Drew Brees, right? There's a certain guy, Davis Webb, who is circling the internet right now, and a lot of talk, a lot of top name executives, a lot of people in the community, in the NFL community, in the football circle, have a lot of great things to say about this young man at only 30 years old. So you have NFL experience, you know how to communicate with players. So not only was he ahead of Patrick Mahomes, but Patrick Mahomes gives Davis Webb a lot of credit for his success in the NFL. The man is very, very intelligent, right? So he goes to the NFL, right? He's a backup. The Giants draft him, doesn't work out. He did back up a Manning, right? Eli Manning, Super Bowl champion. So he was the backup under Eli Manning. Eli Manning has nothing but great things to say about Davis Webb as well. And so he's a Manning, right? Another guy high up that that is vouching for you, is gonna give you definitely put your name out there, and he's done it himself. So of course, 2 weeks ago when I was talking about coaches, I was talking about guys that were quarterback whisperers that were getting a lot of buzz, right? The Raiders are talking about drafting a quarterback number one. Will it be Mendoza? Will it be Ty Simpson now? Will it be Dante Moore? Right? The Raiders are talking about drafting a quarterback number one. So if you're drafting a quarterback number one and you're looking at defensive head coach, you have to bring in somebody that knows quarterbacks, right? Defensive guys, unless you're Patrick Graham, don't really know quarterbacks too well. And I'll get to all the comments in a second. I'm trying to find out where it was. Hopefully it'll stay there. Yeah, there we go. So, the backstory goes when he was with the Giants, right? He went to the Jets. Then he comes when he was there. He would help the coaches every week. Why doing his job as a backup, right? Why studying, helping the starting quarterback study in the field room for the players that he's going to face, right? The corners, the linebackers, their tendencies, because every great quarterback does that. He was in those rooms helping them. But not only did he go as far as to do that, but on his own time, he would bring the quarterback a full breakdown list of all the players they were going up against, not that week, but the week ahead. So the dude, Davis Webb, was a week ahead of everybody else. So he knew as a backup the game plan, what it was supposed to do, but it wasn't enough for him that he came up with that so quick that he had to go and do other stuff to, keep his mind from, I guess, people like that are intelligent. They want to constantly, learn information. So that's what he would do. He would go the next week ahead, the team they were playing, knowing that he probably wasn't going to get in the game, barring an injury or something. And he would give the head coach, the schematics for each player that they were going against, which is kind of something, another coach we had did in his way coming up, right? We'll get into that in a bit. So, make a long story short, very great mind. They bring him in the building. He goes to the Buffalo Bills. The Giants offered, when he went to the Buffalo Bills before he left, right? The Bills offered him to be the quarterback coach for Josh Allen. But the man didn't want to be the quarterback coach for Josh Allen, which is absolutely crazy, right? Like how that's a way that you're gonna. That's how Brian Dayball got his name, was being the quarterback coach for Josh Allen and making Josh Allen what he was. So instead of taking that opportunity, he didn't want that opportunity. He said the only person that he would leave and go and coach for was Sean Payton. So there was already a connection there. He wanted to learn from Sean Payton, which is what he's doing, right? Um, Last year, Sean Payton gave him the opportunity to call plays in a preseason game. He knocked it out of the park. So he has those, right? First time ever calling plays in a preseason game in the NFL, with a bunch of backups. You knock it out of the park, they win big. Did a pretty good job. So a name that's, circling. And when you have a guy like Spytek, a very young, very, very young CEO that's running shit, a GEM, right? And then you have Tom Brady, who's pretty young too to be a minority owner of a franchise at his age. When you have these two young guys, it makes sense to have another young guy in the building that you can groom and teach your philosophy to and your head coaching philosophy to if you're a Tom Brady, right? Because Tom Brady, we all know he wants to be completely involved in everything the Las Vegas Raiders do, but he can't because he has a job with Fox. And I've heard rumors that maybe this season might be the last year he coaches with Fox because he wants to be more involved with the Raiders and he wants to make this team a better franchise. So if Tom Brady does that, shout out to Tom Brady. That would be great for us. However, if he doesn't do that, and he is minority owner, you cannot coach the team, right? They stopped that rule when Al Davis did it as an owner back in the day. There are rules in place. You cannot be the owner or a minority owner and coach the team or be involved in calling the plays. However, if you bring in a 30-year-old coach that has no experience coaching, you could sure be a lot more involved in calling those plays and being in the playbook and being in the personnel a lot more with a guy that's 30 years old than trying to bring in a John Harbaugh who was fired by Baltimore after 18 years, right? You could try to bring in a guy that's 63 years old, 10 years younger than the coach we just had to get rid of because of his nepotism, because of his love for a quarterback that he couldn't just, bench. It's going to be a lot harder, what I'm saying, for a guy like Tom Brady or Spytek to get a head coach to listen to what they're trying to do in Las Vegas, right? An older head coach. It's going to be harder to get a guy that's already been a head coach, like a McCarthy, right? Even like the Kevin Stefanski, who was just released, fired from the Browns, right? It's going to be harder for the Las Vegas Raiders to bring in one of these guys, even a Clint Kubiak, at 38 years old, another young, young-minded, up-and-coming guy. So it's going to be harder for them to have the say that they want. And I believe Tom Brady, wants to turn this team around, and he wants his voice to be heard. He wants, to be involved. And what better way to be involved than to go get a young, up-and-coming coach? Now, the title, Gruden, right? Gruden started the same way. Gruden was a quarterback guy in Green Bay, right? Gruden started picking up steam as, hey, this guy knows football, man. He knows, hey, this guy knows football, man. He knows his football, right? Oh, sorry, that's a horrible Gruden voice. But that's how Gruden got started. Name started circling around. The Raiders, like they do, like they did with Lane Kiffin, hiring the youngest coach in NFL history at the time. The Raiders have been known to make a splash and go out and get a young name that nobody was talking about. Now I know Lane Kiffin, you know, coached at USC, was there with Pete Carroll, all that. Gruden, though, came in the same way, right? Started as, as a coach here, started as a coach here. Um, Matter of fact, let's just talk about what Gruden did because I don't want to speculate. So, why the title says could be the next Gruden is the Las Vegas Raiders could be, you know, if this dude blows it out the park and gets another interview after the playoffs, because you got to wait until, right? Definitely got to wait until the playoffs are over. But the playoffs for the Broncos and the way they played this year, the playoffs could be over a lot faster than people think for the Denver Broncos, right? They've struggled in a lot of games. They've won a lot of games from behind. But John Gruden, right? Started out as a graduate assistant. He was a passing game coordinator at Southern Missouri. He was a tight ends coach at Pacific. For the San Francisco 49ers, he started out as the offensive assistant. For Pittsburgh, he was the wide receiver coach. For the Green Bay Packers, he was the offensive assistant and quality control coach. For the Green Bay Packers, turned out to be, wide receiver coach. Then he went to Philadelphia Eagles, was the offensive coordinator. And then the Oakland Raiders signed John Gruden, 1998, as one of the youngest head coaches. I think it was the youngest head coach in NFL history. So, 1998, Al Davis made a splash and went and got one of the youngest head coaches in the NFL. But that's how he came up, right? Just this guy's taking a different path. He played football. He's a brilliant mind. He knows how to scout players. Obviously, what he's done with Bo Nix is, has been special. So, what do y'all think, man? What do y'all think? Do you think the Raiders, how they do? Is it just a smokescreen, right? Are they just trying to get the party started? And why not pick the brain of the team that won the division, that had 11 or 12 or 13 game win streak, whatever the Broncos had? Absolutely ridiculous. Um, don't even want to say it. But yeah, do y'all think the Raiders, you know, that Mark Davis, and I know he's not the one that's going to be picking, right? It's been said it's going to be Tom Brady, it's going to be John Spytek. But do they go out and get a young guy like this? But my question for Davis Webb, and there's one more part that I need y'all to go check out. It is, um, where's it at? Where's it at? Where's it at? All right, so um, Coach Stanfield. Coach Stanfield is, in case you don't know, he is a pro football coach. He is a strategic development and recruiting, right? Highly respected name. A lot of people know. Um, but he says, and I'm going to read just a small bit, right? He says, whoever takes Davis Webb, um, may take Davis Webb and any franchise he leads. Webb, unwavering clarity, development as the foundation, and a lifelong commitment to anchoring everyone uh, to the essentials that wins championships. When someone hires him, they'd be betting on exactly the leader who turns rock bottom into decades of relevance. I mean, that's pretty high praise, right? Rock bottom into years of relevance. Why head coach and why not OC? Webb isn't a schematic wizard climbing the traditional ladder. He's a rare culture and quarterback alchemist, which, you know, who started out as a quarterback whisperer, right? Sean McVay, Shanahan, right? These guys had a knack for, being able to develop quarterbacks, to develop them fast, to not give them too much, to not throw too much on their plate, right? Um, Also, the head job lets him do what he does best. Center everyone on the details that win. That's what I'm saying. Just win, baby. Um, from day one, the OC step isn't necessary when you've already operated at head coaching impact. So, go back, read this article. Um, it is on my X account, Raiders Rebel underscore. If you want to go check it out on his account, it is Stanfield, Stanfield Field quarterback. It is at quarterback coach underscore Stanfield. So go read the article. I don't want to read it because it's a very, very long article. But man, if other people feel the way this man feels about Davis Webb, this could be this could be very, something very, very promising that might work out to be something special, right? It has before. Other teams have taken a shot, have given guys, I know we took a shot with AP and it didn't work out great, but the development he's done, for Bo Nix, the Broncos, Sean Payton, when he left, when he heard that, hey, this guy wants to, work for you, he wants to learn underneath you, whatever, wants to be your protege. Sean Payton called him in for an interview. Interviewed him. I guess the dude left, got in the car, was on the way to the airport. And Sean Payton talked to some people and said, man, what am I doing? I got to hire this guy. So I talked about Sean Payton not allowing a lot of people into his circle, right? Keeps a lot of the same head coaches. But just one interview with this dude, he didn't even let him get to the airport. He called him, said, turn the car around, came back. They hired him on the spot. 2023, he was the quarterback coach. 2024, he was the quarterback coach. This year, they've given him more responsibility, right? He's the quarterback coach and the passing game coordinator. And, there's not really like a star receiver on the Broncos receiving core. And look at their record, man. Look at their record. So that team is sad. What team is sad? Hey, buddy, Harbaugh or Flores? Neither. I mean, okay, I won't say neither. I won't say neither. I'm a Flores. I'm not in on Flores. I'm not in on Flores. Now, if they can make it work with the Brian Dayball, and Flores doesn't work out or rubs people the wrong way, and they got somebody they can give them the boot, and you have somebody already underneath them like a Dayball, you know, then I mean I don't know. I ain't got to say in the franchise. If it was me, I wouldn't take Flores. I wouldn't take Flores. I wouldn't even go a defensive minded head coach. I think we need an offensive minded head coach because the weapons, the future of the Raiders is on the offensive side of the ball, right? All our stars are on the offensive side of the ball, whether it's offensive linemen, whether it's receivers, whether it's Brock Bowers, excuse me, whether it's Ashton Genty, right? The Raiders' future is on the offensive side of the ball. So why would you bring in a defensive guy to bring in an offensive coordinator that might do good in his first year and his second year, and the Raiders, somebody else wants to make him a head coach. So do you take that chance? I say no. I say you go out and you get an offensive mind. I like Mike LaFleur. There's a lot of talk that maybe Matt LaFleur, his brother who coaches for the Packers, if they get blown out or if they lose to the Chargers in the first round of the playoffs, that maybe he could be on the mend. But I'd take Mike LaFleur first. I'd take Mike LaFleur. But Harbaugh, Flores, I say no. Harbaugh, I really don't want a guy that's 63 years old. But you have to look at the fact that in 18 years, they've been in the playoffs 12 times. You have to look at the last 3 years. He was, 12-5. He was 13-4. This year, they almost made the playoffs. They missed the playoffs by a field goal. Okay, it wasn't that; it was way off. but he didn't kick the field goal, right? Harbaugh didn't kick the field goal. I've also heard other content creators saying, Harbaugh is just a special teams guy. That's absolutely crazy talk to me. Yes, he came in as a special teams guy. Yes, he's a special teams specialist. But you don't make it 18 years coaching a franchise, win a Super Bowl, and take them to the playoffs 12 times in those 18 years because you're a special teams guru. So I believe you adapt after 18 years of coaching, and I think he's an offensive and defensive, and special teams guy. I think Harbaugh could do it all. Uh, on the other hand, I was opposed of the Jim Harbaugh signing, right? I didn't want Jim Harbaugh, and I don't know why. I'm not sure why. I Probably because of his age. Probably because he was a defensive guy, and somehow I got suckered into trying to say Carroll was going to work. But can the Raiders really afford to miss out on a Harbaugh? I mean, just look what Jim Harbaugh has done with the San Diego Chargers. He came in, he brought a great staff around him, a staff that won on the first year, right? They're going back to the playoffs. Last year they lost in the first round. This year they're going back to the playoffs with an injured quarterback, an injured offensive line, an injured running back room, injuries galore. But Harbaugh changed the culture overnight. Quick. It was done. Jim Harbaugh, I believe, could do the same thing for the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, will he take the job? Will he take an interview? He's not even on the list. He could be on the list. There's a lot of teams that want him. I've heard since he's been fired, 10 teams have called and reached out to to John Harbaugh, the special teams guru, that if 10 teams reached out to him, there's only 6 head coaching vacancies right now. So that means, or 7. So that means there's 3 other teams that still have head coaches that are willing to fire their head coach right now to sign a guy like John Harbaugh. So when you look at the experience and you look at the age, it's 10 years younger or 11 years younger than Pete Carroll. He's not going to bring in family members to run the offensive line and then not fire them if they do bad. He's not going to bring a family member to be the personnel guy and the game manager that was supposed to be the quarterback assistant but ended up with a headset being the game manager. Harbaugh's not going to do that, I don't believe. I don't think he's going to be a guy that has favoritism on a quarterback that throws, 18 interceptions in a game in a season, right? I don't think Harbaugh is that type of dude. So if you want the culture change, and even if it doesn't work, Harbaugh is going to bring in guys on your staff that you could possibly, you know, hire within when he leaves, if he leaves, right? If it doesn't work in the first 3 years or 2 years, or if it starts out like the same year, same way Pete Carroll did. I mean, I don't know. But we heard John Spytek say, this is a rebuild. They're rebuilding slow. They don't care how long it takes. They're going to get it right. And if that's the case, and you're trying to get it right, I think Harbaugh makes a lot of sense. I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, look what they've done with Lamar Jackson. Yes, they can't win a Super Bowl. Yes, they made it to the playoffs. Yes, they won a Super Bowl with what, Joe Flacco? Was Flacco the quarterback? I don't know. My brain don't work. But look what he's done with that franchise, with that culture. Derrick Henry. I mean, look at the rushing season he has every year, even this year with the fumbles that he's had, which he never has, right? The struggles. Baltimore is still good. They lost way more players this year than the Raiders, and they were still contending for a playoff bid in a tough division, right? So I don't know, man. I wouldn't be mad at Harbaugh. Do I want him? Is it my number one pick? No. No. I'd rather go young, see what we got. But if you're trying to rebuild, do you really do it with a young coach that has no experience and has never coached before? I don't know. I don't know. Y'all answer the question. Y'all answer the question. Do you feel fire Pete after 1 year is a mess up? No, I don't. Because I said this at the beginning of the year when they hired Pete Carroll. If Gino plays horribly, he won't pull him, right? He's going to roll with him and try to make it right. That was a mistake. If his sons do horribly, he's not going to have the heart to fire him. And bringing in your sons at one of the most coveted positions in the NFL, the offensive line, the running game coordinator, when you drafted a quarterback sixth overall, was a mistake. It was a mistake. And Pete Carroll not, showing that he could not do the right thing and fire his kids or bench Gino. And he pointed the fingers at Chip Kelly and he pointed the fingers at Tom McMahon, I think was wrong. The fact that he went with Kai Blue Kelly, who was getting cooked out there every single game because he was the guy he brought in, and he traded Jacorian Bennett because he wanted Kai Blue Kelly to be the guy. The fact that he let DeCamarion Richardson sit on special teams all year long and not get any playtime, but maybe 5-10 snaps a game. And when he was out there, DeCamarion Richardson looked good. DeCamarion Richardson looked good last year. So Pete Carroll came in and moved JPJ from center to guard. Is JPJ a better guard? That's, I believe so. But I don't think he should have moved the offense around, line around like he did. He should have rocked with what they had. And speaking of offensive line, so no, I don't think they should have kept Pete Carroll. But let's roll into the next segment. The offensive line. Man, the offensive line, the offensive line. I may owe Geno Smith an apology. I may not. He may get it. He probably won't. But nah, he may. He may. And I think we all might owe Geno an apology, man. So let's talk about it. Geno Smith. Supposedly, there are reports out by Ryan McFadden that says he talked to an agent. Now, before I go any further, I'm going to say I feel that this agent is probably Geno Smith's, right? I'm going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to call it like I see it. Really, I mean, if this is the information we're getting, I'm going to say that this agent might be Geno Smith's agent. But, you take your own take, how you feel about it. Well, to me, that's what it just sounds like. So there's a report that came out that said the offensive line was so bad under Brendan Carroll's coaching that they were privately meeting with Geno Smith, Ashton Genty, and the offensive line. We're privately meeting to try to figure out the run scheme, the schematics, to get better blocking and whatever scheme that the dude that should have never been Brendan Carroll, the offensive line coach, the run game coordinator, they couldn't figure out what he was trying to do. They said, agent says, they were rushed through practices. The players felt like whatever he was trying to teach them, they didn't have time to learn. And when they asked about, well, why are we doing this? Or, why aren't we doing this? That, it was just, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, hurry up, right? So Brendan Carroll obviously does not know how to be an offensive line coach. Obviously, this offensive line was so bad that they had private meetings to try to get better. And Geno Smith was involved. So for all the shit that Geno Smith got in this fan base, for all the shit that Geno Smith got, on the field at Allegiant Stadium in the home games. Yes, he played bad. Yes, he played garbage. But what does that say for our players in the building and Geno Smith? A lot of people don't like him. I mean, y'all know how I feel about Geno. I ain't even got to say it. I didn't want him from the beginning. But to me, that kind of changes the perspective of the offensive line, of the players, the mentality we have of the players, the heart, the love of the game, right? That these guys went out of their way as a team to meet privately to try to get better. Now, nobody's talked about the offensive line and Geno Smith probably more than the Raider content creators, right? That's been bad. But I think all these guys deserve an apology, man. And I've talked about it all year, right? I felt like the O-line last year started to get, started to get in a groove. They started to believe in one another. They started to believe in the man next to him was going to do his 111. And when you get confidence in the guy next to you, it's easier to do your job when you're not worried about somebody else's job, right? And I think the offensive line scheme that they brought in for when Joe Philbin took over, right? The offensive line scheme they brought in, I thought was a damn good offensive line scheme towards the end of the year, right? The offensive line got better, the team got better, the run game got better. Now it wasn't great, but baby steps, right? It got better, and then you come in and blow it all up, and it just looked worse. But shout out to every one of the offensive linemen that was there. If this story is true, because it's just an agent saying what he believes, and I don't know how much fact there is behind it. And like I said, it sounds to me like it's a Geno Smith agent trying to make his quarterback look good. Like this offensive line was so bad that Geno Smith, being the great leader that he is, he had meetings with the offensive line. Now, come on, I don't think that's the way it went, but it sounds to me like, and maybe it was, maybe it was a, I don't want to speculate, but it could have been any one of these agents. JPJ's agent, Dylan Parham, who's on a contract year, who the Raiders made, look like ass by putting different centers next to him, by leaving Stone Forsythe on the left side of him, playing left tackle. It could have been any one of these guys, but so just throwing that out there. Let me know in the comments before. This has never been heard of. Nobody's ever heard of this before. Nobody's ever heard of players having private meetings. The only time that it was ever mentioned that I heard of was Aiden O'Connell with Jacoby Myers and Trey Tucker and Devontae Adams. Two years ago out there, we're throwing in the parks. We're trying to get better with Aiden O'Connell. Other than that, I've never heard of, guys having secret meetings because your coach is so bad that you do not understand what they're trying to accomplish in the system they're teaching, right? They don't realize they don't understand why you're telling them to block the wrong guy in certain schemes when they should be, blocking the guy that's blitzing and, crossing the wrong way, right? We're running, we're running outside zone when we should be running power. So just horrible, horrible, horrible news. And we knew there was going to be more news, coming out, and I'm sure there'll be more news coming out after that. I don't care who we get. I don't care who we get at quarterback as long as we get rid of that bum ass JK. Just AOC. Yeah. Rebel, I'm being honest. Van Joseph is not very good head coach candidate for our team. I don't think Vance Joseph, he's up there in age kind of too, right? He's in his what, 50s or something. And I'm not trying to go that way. I don't think a defensive coordinator is the right thing. But I do think it is the right move for the Las Vegas Raiders, right? Because who's on top of the division? The Denver Broncos, right? You need a quarterback. I mean, if you need a quarterback, why not have in what people are talking about, the next quarterback guru and quarterback whisperer like Sean McVay? Why not bring in this guy if he's available to see, evaluate this team? If he was to come in and coach the Raiders, what would you do with Aiden O'Connell? What would you do with Geno Smith, right? Hopefully they don't have to ask him that question. But, would you draft a Fernando Mendoza, or would you wait next year and try to get in, an Arch Manning or a Lenora Sellers or a Sorbet, whatever the hell, any one of these cats, right? What would you do? What would you do? And how would you go about building this team? Because that's how the interview process goes. You ask them, their thoughts, how they would build a franchise, how they would change it. What do they see on this team that needs fixed, right? That's all interviews questions. Sometimes these interviews are 9, 10, hours. I've heard people, pick somebody up in the morning, they go out to breakfast, they go over the roster, they're going over film, then you're going out to lunch, then you're talking football, and then you're going back and you're going over more film and you're going over more roster. So Vance Joseph, I think, is just to pick the Broncos' brain, right? What would he do? What would he do with his defense? You know, are their players worth keeping? And you're going to ask all the coaches the same thing, right? Break down my roster, and you're going to get different feedback. And the Raiders did that last year, and they came up with Pete Carroll. But last year, right, they had Jed Hughes, and a lot of people forget this. Jed Hughes was a guy Mark Davis paid millions of dollars to be the cupid of the general manager and the head coach, right? You're going to bring in a guy that doesn't know this franchise, that's just because he's done it before, that I think is one of the crazy. I need a job doing that, bro. Can you pay me millions of dollars to find a head coach and a GM? Because, bro, I could do the same shit. Like, put me in those circles. I could meet these guys. I could talk to them. I could do all the background that everybody else does. Like, why are you paying somebody millions of dollars to find a head coach and the next GM for your team? It just doesn't make sense to me, right? It's your team. You should know who that guy is. Um, and Brady should know who that guy is, and the GM that you hired, right, should know who the next head coach should be. So, I found that crazy. It didn't work out last year. Obviously, that's not the plan they're going with this year. They are going with Tom Brady, and Spytek will pick the head coach. So, yeah, Vance Joseph, and I think a lot of these guys are mainly to pick their brain. Vance Joseph could also be part of the Rooney Rule. You got to have so many guys in. Are they going to give Patrick Graham an interview like they did last year at the head coaching spot to just see what he would do? No, breaking news: Max Crosby has been traded to the Packers for Ben Simmons and 2 draft picks. Stop playing, bro. Don't do that to me. You really gonna make me look at my phone? Yeah, my phone's not blowing up, so I don't believe that's happening. But that's not gonna happen, bro. Raider Nation, baby. We need a whole new team. Why do you say that? Why do you say that? We've went over the roster. We talked about the roster on this channel many times. I don't feel like we're that far off. I really don't. I think when you listen to the report that I just gave of coaches not being able to do their job so badly that the offensive line has to go out and have private meetings on and private workouts trying to get better on their own time, that's horrible coaching. So we have dogs in this building, man. The mindset, the mentality of these guys, I think people are overlooking. And you can look at how bad they were as a unit, as on the offensive line, on the defensive line. But you also got to look at who was in charge and pulling the strings and pointing the fingers. And that was a 74-year-old delusional Pete Carroll that believed Geno was elite, that believed he was a top 5 quarterback, that believed Stone Forsythe was a top 15 tackle in the NFL, and Alex Kappa was, the best right guard on the team. So, I mean, number one pick, just go from 3-14 to 5-12. Ouch. 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 Come on, man. If they have the number one overall pick and you get a quarterback, he's gonna sit. He's gonna sit for a year. I guarantee you. As Spytek's belief, they've talked about it so many times, and I don't know why people just think they're gonna change their minds. But if we get a quarterback at number one, they're gonna sit for a year. So, we might only win 2 more games, but that just gives us another high draft pick and not needing a quarterback. So I'm not mad at that. Man, I'm hoping next year we have a good winning record. We're not gonna have that. I mean, we'll be lucky if a coach comes in and this team plays for him like they did Antonio Pierce. We might have a chance, but we are not having a good record. When your coach, I mean, when your general manager comes out and says this is a rebuild and we don't care how long it takes. He said, now we might win 10 games, but that's not what we're shooting for, right? They're shooting for rebuilding this team the right way, getting the right pieces in the building, making us a team that competes every year, not just like the Washington Redskins that went and got JD5 and made it to the NFC Championship. And then the next year, they're in the top 5 picks in the NFL draft with only 3 wins, right? Not like that. Nobody wants to do that. We want to build for long term, for stability. And the way to do that is to draft the right players consistently. High picks, the first 100 picks, you need to have 4 or 5 in there. And if you do that, then we could be all right. We could be all right. Not yeah, not delusional. I mean, many teams, many teams. So we can win 10 games next year. It just depends on who's in charge. Matt Nagy is available too as head coach. Yes, he is coming in for an interview on Thursday. But speaking of interviews, let me get back to that. On the interview part, I find it very, very interesting that Davis Webb has an interview today, right? All day. Nobody else coming in. Tomorrow, they have Kubiak or not Kubiak. Tomorrow they have Vance Joseph and Matt Nagy coming in, right? Those two are on the same day. And then you have Kubiak the following day, all by himself on a wide open day. So, put the tea leaves together. The two they're interested in most, obviously, is the coach that's going to have a whole day interview, Davis Webb and Clint Kubiak. So I believe those are the dudes that they are looking for. Raiders need to trade the number one pick, so much value. Vamos, I agree 100%. Like, subscribe, follow. We have the same beliefs, man. I've been saying this since last year when we didn't have the number one pick. We should have traded number 6 back. We should have kept number 1 last year and traded back. I think Mark Davis should buy back Tom Brady's share and tell him to kick rocks. um, that might happen. That very well could happen if somebody could come in, could get close to Mark Davis and let him know that, hey, this man ain't trying to help you. He's trying to take over a franchise. It's just my opinion. I've said it since day one on this channel. I think the whole Tom Brady thing is a hostile takeover, man. A hostile takeover. He wants to own this team. Jim Gray wants to own this team. They're in cahoots together. But maybe, just maybe, it might happen, right? If Tom Brady misses on this pick, and we talked about it yesterday, they said, right, Tom Brady needs to be, he needs to be the guy picking this number 1 pick if they take a quarterback. Everybody on the planet says the Raiders are taking a quarterback. When everybody on the planet says the Raiders are doing something, they do the opposite. Nobody's ever been right with what the Raiders are going to do. I got lucky as hell saying they were going to draft Charles Grant last year. They drafted Charles Grant. I got lucky as hell saying they were going to draft Dylan Labe 2 years ago. They drafted Dylan Labe. I got lucky as hell saying Raiders would probably draft Dante Thornton because it just fit Pete Carroll's, fast speed, a guy that he thought, could get. So every once in a while you might get lucky and pick somebody that, you have on your draft board that the Raiders end up picking. But more than likely, the Raiders always do the wrong thing. Always. So we'll see, man. All eyes are on Brady. All eyes are on Spytech. They have a chance to turn this franchise around, or they have a chance to just be straight ass. Straight ass. Hire the ghost of John Madden. I don't know if that would work. How would he get on the plane? Raiders are an embarrassment to the NFL, bro. That's not right. That's not right. I should block you, but I won't. Raiders suck. Damn, it's all Raider haters in here. How come I can't get people that want to talk Raider football that love Raiders? Only people that want to talk shit. What head coaches in the league have won more than one Super Bowl? Belichick. Andy Reid. Vince Lombardi. Jimmy Johnson. I don't know who else. Is there more? Have you True Blood on HBO, bro. Have you True Blood? Have I seen True Blood? Nah, I don't watch HBO. Want to be in a challenge video? Do 100. Do 100 what? Challenge video for what? What's up, homie? I'm ready to watch the Chargers lose. Your spelling is bad. Yeah, I'm ready to watch the Chargers lose. I'm ready to watch the Broncos lose next week. I'm ready to watch all of them lose. You ready? Yo, you from the Bay? No, I'm not from the Bay. I'm from Norwalk, Cali. What do you think of conformity gate not happening? I don't even know what that means. Give me a bit. I'll get to the comments. Nah, you good. You good. Raiders suck. I mean, yeah. For a minute. For a minute. They're bad. I don't think the Raiders suck, man. I think they were badly coached. They were badly coached. They got to give somebody a chance. And this year has to be the year. No matter what you pick at head coach, no matter who he is, no matter how bad he is, you got to give him 3 years. You got to give him three minimum. Minimum. I don't care if they don't win a game. You can't. You can't. And if you make the wrong decision, whoever made that decision needs to be fired too, and probably sell the team. Boo Raiders, you're back. Boo Raiders. Why you want to boo the Raiders? He just explains things, so it takes long to get to the chat. Man, don't get to the chat. Get to the chat. You're on your chat, bro. Super chat. Super chat. You know what? When you super chat, even 99 cents, bro. $1. $1. It pops up on my screen and it shows a little thing up here. And that's the only thing that shows me that you commented. Other than that, if I'm talking, I don't see it. I don't see it. If you're trying to say Raiders suck, you should probably spell it correctly, right? Coming here acting like dyslexic, spelling backwards and shit, talking about Raiders suck. Clowns. We signed John Harbaugh. Then we signed Joe Flacco. You know, I ain't hating on that. I ain't hating on that Raider 510. Raider 510. And I seen you in I seen you in other channels giving my Taylor Green info out. Just fuck with you. But yeah, man. I wouldn't be mad at that. You sign Harbaugh, you bring in Flacco to, you know, to groom your next quarterback, to develop your quarterback, to teach him the ropes, to help his mechanics. Who better than Flacco? I mean, they had that in Cleveland and they traded him like a dumbass. I'm sure he was helping Shador, but from what I heard, from what I hear, is Flacco's not that dude, right? Joe Flacco, from what I hear, he's not a guy um, that wants to be all up in other people's business and trying to develop guys. Like that's at least that's what I heard in Cleveland, right? He wasn't trying to help Shador. He wasn't trying to help Dylan Gabriel. But if it works, it works, man. Flacco would be, if he's down to do it, would be a great mentor. But some guys just ain't meant to be coaches. They just better players. Um, we should wait to get things right. Raiders just win, baby. I think we should too. Ricky Diaz, appreciate you. Boo! Raiders, I'm back, baby. Shout out for the 199. Chi Chi. Raiders. Sham in the building. I hope you're having a good Wednesday. Hump day is always a good day. So hope you're having a good day as well. Appreciate you. Yo, we are all low key trash. No offense, but we get the O line. Jetty gonna ball out. Jetty gonna ball out. All right, let's talk about the O line. So, what we got on O line? Offensive linemen. Let's see here. Oh my god. Never works. Free agent offensive lineman. Man, this shit is bullshit. Bullshit. The Bears, the Bears. But yeah, man, I feel like with what Ashton Genty has done, with this offensive line that just couldn't get it together this year, is pretty damn special, right? Pretty damn special. He led all of rookie running backs. Yes, he had a little bit more carries, but he led all of rookie running backs in touchdowns, in yards. He led them all in receptions. He was fourth in the NFL, I do believe, in yards after contact, only behind Saquon Barkley, Travis Henry, um, and two other running backs. I don't know who the other ones were. But that's pretty special. That's pretty special. To be a rookie, to be fourth or fifth in yards after contact, he only had 1,021 yards total this season, but he had 1,120 something yards after contact. That's freakish. That's freakish. Also can tell what? Also can tell you something, I guess. Please don't read the blitz. What? He will get to your questions. Give him a minute. Yeah, I'll get to him. I'll get to him. Yes, he didn't read the blitz. What blitz? What you mean? Honestly, how do you think we will look the Raiders? How do you think it will look for the Raiders to go to the playoffs next year? I mean, there's always a chance. Any given Sunday, like we have talent in the building. When you have a Brock Bowers and an Ashton Genty, when you have a Max Crosby on the other side, like when you have the players we have around them, right? A well coached unit is going to be a big, big difference. A big difference. Low key, no, it's pretty obvious. No offense. I don't think it's no offense, though. I don't think it's no offense. I think it was a horribly ran offensive system from the head coach with the guys that he brought in, with the fact that he won't, you know, that he won't change, that he won't change his ways, that he won't adapt in the NFL, that he just, keeps trying shit that's not working, that haven't worked in a long time. This is why he got released. It's why he got fired from the Jets. I mean, from the Jets, from the Seattle Seahawks, and why he got fired from the Jets also. Good for you. Yeah, you got. Yeah, y'all gonna get Mendoza at least. I don't know. I don't know. Arch Manning isn't old enough. What do you mean old enough? He could come out. He's got eligibility if he wants to come out, right? He was a redshirt freshman last year, so he's good. You get Mendoza. Tell me why you get Mendoza. Mendoza is Hispanic. Raf in the building. Is he Hispanic or is he Cuban? I don't know what he is. Um, it's just our O line. Ducks our head coaches and our quarterback situation. The O line ducks. Rebel Lakers and Raiders perfect combination. Oh, you know, you know. One ain't playing tonight, but I wear Raiders all the time, so y'all want Derek Carr back. Let's talk about Derek Carr, man. I think Derek Carr. Um, I would bring Derek Carr back in the building. I hear people saying it's over, move on, but are you really a Raider if you're gonna say move on from Derek Carr? Once a Raider, always a Raider. The love he has for this franchise, the love he has for people in the building, the love he has for Mark Davis after all the shit he did to him. You know, Derek Carr is is a Raider, will always be a Raider. And if Derek Carr wants to come be the OC, the quarterback coach, the head coach, the general manager, or anything else of this team, I'm giving him the opportunity. Where do I sign? How much money do you want? Come in and do your thing. There is no smarter mind in all of football when it comes to quarterbacks than Derek Carr. There's nobody that could read defenses, no offenses. You know, if you have any knowledge of football, you will know that Derek Carr came to the line of scrimmage with five, six, seven plays in his head every single time he got behind the center. He made the decisions, what plays to call, what plays to check out of. He ran that offense like most quarterbacks should that don't do in the NFL anymore. You have somebody in your headset telling you the plays. They don't give you the ability to check out of them. They don't give you the ability to, to change run schemes when you see it's a blitz, right? These guys just go out there and do what I say and it'll all be good. So I would take Derek Carr back in a heartbeat. I would take him as a quarterback coach. I think whoever we draft as a quarterback would be, would be gifted to be able to learn from Derek Carr. And you can unhit the like button. That's fine. um, oh man, how bad do the Raiders suck? I mean, they're all right. Navy best salute, my brother. It's a feeling 50-50. Nice. Half better, half sick. Get well, my guy. I think everybody's sick right now. Shit, I've been sick the last couple days with a damn cold, stuffed up, can't breathe. Far off from what? Wishful thinking. What's wishful thinking? What's wishful thinking, bro? I guarantee you, if the Raiders would have got a better coach, if they wouldn't have had the Nepo shit in the building, if they wouldn't have had Pete Carroll and Geno Smith, I think the players on this roster would have been way better than they were last year. We might have won 7, 8 games. We could have possibly won even, 8 or 9 games. But Geno was the wrong, even maybe with Geno, if 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 it wasn't Pete Carroll the coach, Geno might not have been too bad, right? I mean, I think it would have been way better if Pete Carroll and his favoritism wasn't in the building. There's a lot of players on this team, man. We have a lot of high draft picks. We have a lot of, well, we did, they let a lot go. There's a lot to be positive about. You have one of the best facilities in all of the NFL, one of the best training facilities, one of the best stadiums, an owner that's willing to just fork out money like like he's making it rain. You're just willing to pay head coaches and fire them, pay them and fire them, just to make the fans happy, just to make this a better team. And I think people disrespect Mark Davis way too much. He acknowledges he's not the best, but he takes his time and his money to try to bring in people that know football, and he just can't get it right. But that's not his fault because I mean the man's willing to pay whatever it takes. Mark is going to change until he's gone. The team is so. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. I don't think you're going to find another owner in the NFL that pays the money that Mark Davis does, right? There is no owner in the NFL, and you could call it smart or stupid or whatever you want to call it, but there is no other owner in the NFL right now that is willing to just fire coaches that have 15, $16 million contracts and still pay them, right? And Mark Davis is willing to take that chance because he's seen the things that Pete Carroll was doing, right? He had people in his ear telling him, bro, this ain't right. When you have your offensive line doing, doing private workouts, trying to learn a scheme that nobody can pick up because there is not one. It's just do this, do that, run through it. So yeah, the Raiders are close, man. Hey man, the Raiders are looking good forward. Unemployed final boss. Rebel, you doing play by play for the wild card weekend? Yes, I will be live Friday for the college football game between Oregon and Indiana. I will be live Saturday or whatever the other day is for the other college football game, and then I will be live for probably as many games as I can. It might be a long day Saturday and Sunday, but yes, I'll be doing definitely play by plays for all the games. So pull up. We will be breaking down Fernando Mendoza on Friday. We will be breaking down Dante Moore. We'll be breaking down every throw. Um, Dude, how do my likes keep going up and down? Like, what the hell? Y'all are jacked up. I had 30 something likes and they're going down. I got 16. Okay. Y'all need to get Stefanski. I wouldn't be mad at Stefanski. I'm a fraud Eagle fan. I like the Raiders as my second favorite team. Nah, bro. You can have as many teams as you want to, man. It's your world. Own it. Own it. Broncos on a bye, so they can't lose next week. Um, yeah, they can lose next week. They do play next week, right? Wild card weekend this week. To a tag for Dolphins GM. I would not tag him, bro. He got to go. No, I'm talking about now Shanahan, R. McVay. Like, they're such great hooks. How many Super Bowls have they won? Why do Raider fans want someone from their tree so bad? Oh, because if you look at Sean McVay, you look at Zach Robinson, you look at shit. I don't even know all the players out. Everybody that's been on his staff, defense, special teams, offense, have taken head coaching jobs or offensive coordinating jobs somewhere, and they've all succeeded. He look what he did with Goff. Look what he did with Matthew Stafford. Matthew Stafford was struggling, couldn't win games, had up and down teams over there. Had a great receiver in Detroit, and was never that dude, right? But he comes to the Rams, McVay, which everybody says the quarterback whisperer, right? He comes, Matthew Stafford turns it around. They win a Super Bowl. They've been, this close every year to making it to the Super Bowl and winning the Super Bowl. He's always got the team in the playoffs. They're always over 500. They always have a solid running game, no matter who's the offensive coordinator, who's the run game coordinator. They always have a solid offensive line. I mean, their defense is always good, and it's always young guys. None of the coaches are old veterans. He brings in young guys that he develops on their coaching staff. So Sean McVay is you know the shit, bro. He's got a Super Bowl as a young coach. He's pretty much a self-made coach that made a name for himself and a legacy for himself. Um, Look what he did for Sam Darnold that come through there. Look what he did Baker Mayfield. I mean, the dude's a quarterback guru, like, and a damn good head coach. So anybody that comes out of that tree is comes from a solid offensive system that definitely good run game, um, just definitely good blocking scheme up front, and hopefully they learn enough that they can go out and get high quality assistants like McVay's done year in and year out. So I think that's why a lot of people want the McVay tree and the Shanahan tree. I mean, that's pretty much what everybody runs in football. Like, the tree's been around forever, and he's in the Super Bowl every other year, every other year. Now I don't know why people don't take more from the Andy Reid tree, right? Because if it was me, I would want guys, you know, like a Matt Nagy, like their quarterback coach right now, their passing game coordinator. I would be picking from those kind of trees. I think Andy Reid is just a coaching guru. Look what he did with Alex Smith. Then you come in, you take a guy like Patrick Mahomes that you move up from 28th to 10th or whatever to get that nobody thought was going to be a good quarterback in the NFL, and he turns out to win 3 Super Bowls. So Harbaugh and McVay trees are good, but there's some other trees that people should be talking a little bit more about. Pigs, what's good? Mentor X Spytech 2026. I hear the mentor talk, but why isn't he on the list? Why hasn't he been brought in for an interview yet? Right? They got interviews lined up today, tomorrow, um, today, tomorrow, and Friday. They have interviews lined up, and some Saturday, from what I hear. There's 3 mystery guys, and maybe he's one of them. Maybe because they're playing in the playoffs this weekend, they got to wait till next weekend. Um, but I don't know about Minter. I don't think he's as high on the list as a lot of people say. For one, the experience. For two, what has he done really? I mean, yes, he helped Michigan win a national title because of his defense, but let's be honest, that was Harbaugh's defense, right? That was Harbaugh's defense. Same thing. Right now in LA, it's a Harbaugh's defense. He's running the same scheme, so I don't know if that dude's ready for a head coach. I think the smoke around Jesse Mentor is a little undeserving, right? Just in my opinion. I miss Derek Carr. He was good. Crazy thing that will never happen, but Mad Max and Trent McDuffie trade would be the wildest trade in history. That would be pretty wild. That would be pretty wild, especially if there's nothing else involved. Gino to the Vikings. I could see that. I could see that. I mean, yeah. If anybody could fix Gino, right? Look what he's done with Sam Darnold. Look what he's done with the rookie JJ McCarthy. Uh, Look what he did with who else? Who was the backup that was over there that looked pretty good before he got hurt? Carson Wentz, right? So yeah, I mean that would be a good place for Gino. That's a damn good take. I think that's a hell of a spot for Gino. Shane Butler. Is it bad I have LV and autism and I refuse to admit it, but I don't want to be viewed not normal and I want to be born? Nah, bro. No, it's not. It's not bad at all. Stefanski with running the ball and passing the ball tight ends makes sense for the Raiders, honestly. You mean I like Stefanski's system, Slammy. I mean, I really did. I really did. QB passing out of the flat, dink and dunk plays. Crazy how much Stefanski is making sense to me. I never really gave it too much thought right till now. It does make sense. It makes sense. I mean, if you look at what he did with Dylan Gabriel, if you look what he did with Shador Sanders, and Shador, I know had a 18.8 quarterback rating. It is what it is. But if you look what he did over there, it was damn good, bro. And I like Stefanski. There's a reason he's one of the hottest names right now. Mendoza is your future. I don't know. Diabolical? Who's diabolical? Who's diabolical? Raiders are butt cheeks. I can see McDuffie in the second for Max in the third, but their value seems pretty close. That's crazy. If you think Trent McDuffie's value is Max Crosby's, I don't know. I mean, it might, but I don't know if the Raiders are willing to go that route. But man, shout out to everybody in the building. Let's get to these offensive linemen. Offensive linemen. You have the Indianapolis Colts, Brendan Smith, right tackle. A lot of runs from one of the best running backs in the NFL, Jonathan Taylor. Oh, that's the other one that had more yards after contact than Ashton Genty. But Brendan Smith, right tackle, projected. His previous average were $17.5 million a season. That is awful high. I mean, not awful high for a right tackle, right? We pay in Colton Miller at, what is he, 29, 30 years old, right? 20 M's right now. You have Joe Benito, guard, 34 years old, making 15 mil for the Cleveland Browns. He is also a free agent. You have Jonah Willis, right tackle from the Arizona Cardinals, making 15 mil. He is 28, 6 years in the NFL. You have Wyatt Teller, guard from Cleveland, making 14 mil at age 31. You have Cam Robinson, left tackle, at 12 mil for the Cleveland Browns. Damn, the Cleveland Browns going to lose their whole offensive line. Whew. You have Rob Haverstein, the right tackle for the Rams. Now, this makes a little bit of sense, right? A little bit of sense. 33 years old, up there in age. But other than Colton Miller, we don't have a whole lot of veterans in there. I mean, Alex Kappa, I don't know if he's going to be back or if he won't be back. Um, we shall see. Kevin Zitzler. Kevin Zitzler, the guard for Tennessee Titans, also 35 years old. 30, what the hell did it go? 35 years old, making 9 mil. Not a lot, right? All these guards right now, that are right tackles that I'm looking at, 29 years old, 34 years old, 28 years old, 31 years old, 30 years old, 33 years old, 35 years old, 32 years old, 28, 29. Jermaine Illuminor, 7 mil will be available. I don't think the Raiders go back to that. Evan Neal, guard, 25. I don't know if Evan Neal is better than, what JPJ is going to be at right guard if he plays right guard. I don't know if his upside is Caleb Rogers' upside. So I'd be willing to rock with what I got. Um, just me. Then you have, 32. Evan Neal is 25. You have another 32-year-old in Ted Karras. You have another 30-year-old in another Cleveland Browns. Bro, Cleveland Browns has six free agents on their offensive line. Yeah, they're gonna have to draft some offensive linemen. Good thing they have a whole bunch of draft capital over there. So I'm looking at these guys, right? And I'm not. I mean, maybe a Zion Johnson that hasn't played great. Tyler Lindenbaum, right? 25 years old. He is making $3.3 million. So, there's a lot of talk about Tyler Lindenbaum. But a name that if I'm the Raiders, I'm giving you two names. One is Greg Van Rotten. Yes, I don't care what you say. I don't care how you feel. I mean, I do care, but it's not going to change my mind. Greg Van Rotten. He has dominated over there for the Giants. He was opening holes for Scatterboo. Um, Still playing at a high level at 35 years old. And if he doesn't win the job, left or right guard, you still have Van Rotten, a guy that is nasty, that is physical, that's gonna help guys like Caleb Rogers develop that dog side, that tough side. Also, if you bring in a guy like Tyler Lindenbaum, who is also 25 years old, he can also help him out. The Cleveland Browns also have another guy that was a tackle, Tevin Jenkins. I wanted 3 years ago in the draft, 2 years ago in the draft. I thought Tevin Jenkins, his physicality, his toughness, his will to win and mentality, I thought was going to be a damn good tackle. 27 years old, was released last year. The Cleveland Browns picked him up. And Tevin Jenkins, a guard, 27, like I said, is, somebody you might look at. But I feel like the guards we have in the building, that I'm talking about, all these guards, bro, like, we're better than that. We're better than that. Right? Feel like a lot of those. What else do we need the most? We need linebacker. Let's talk linebacker. Linebacker. We have Levante David, 35 years old. I mean, come on, man. We might as well keep a Landon Roberts, right? A Landon Roberts. Might as well keep Devin White, who's 28, right? But Levante David is a dog, is an absolute dog. Tampa Bay Bucks, 13 years in the NFL. Um, but we have veterans in the building, man. We have veterans. You have a Bobby Wagner making 9 mil a season. That's a little bit for a linebacker, right? When you could go draft one, when you could have drafted one last year. Shout out for the 999.99. Um, Demario Davis, but he's 36 years old, man. You have Kenneth Murray, right? Dallas Cowboys, 27 years old, making 7.5 mil. You have Caden Ellis, the Falcons, 30 years old. You have Matt Milano, 30 years old. You have Alex Anzona, 30 years old. You have Von Miller, 36 years old. You have Quincy Williams. I told you about Quincy Williams, right? I've talked about this man. If I'm the Las Vegas Raiders, I'm signing this dude right now. He has the speed to cover, even at 29. And, you know, if I'm bringing in a linebacker, my guy is Quincy Williams. Quincy Williams plays for the Jets, 6 years experience, and I think he could be a difference maker on this team. Definitely under Patrick Graham and Robbie Leonard, but I don't know who's going to be back as defensive coordinator, so it's kind of hard to say. But the reason I'm telling you, EJ Speed, Cole Holcomb, Alex Singletary, what do all these linebackers, Devin Bush, Devin Lloyd, Landon Roberts, what do all these cats have in common? They're all 30 years old or older. There is a trend in the NFL. They are going with younger, faster linebackers. Tommy Eichenberg, Amari Gaynor, who they let go. You know, this seems to be the way. So the Raiders need to go linebacker in the draft because if you're looking at this linebacker list, right, it's a bunch of old guys that we already have a Devin White and Landon Roberts will be a free agent, but I think Devin White's on a 2 year deal. I'm not positive because I don't see him on this list anywhere. Oh yeah, Devin White is on this list at 1.1 mil. You bring back Devin White to me. 27 years old. He's younger than all these guys. He led the NFL. I think he set the record for most tackles in a season for a Raider out of any position, right? So you bring back a guy like Devin White to me. If he doesn't get on the grass, he doesn't get on the grass. That's up to him. Um, what else? What else we got? What's the next highest spot we got that we need badly? Corner. Let's go corner. Corners available. It's the same damn thing, bro. The Raiders are not in a good spot right now. And there's a reason why SpyTech keeps telling we need to go through the draft. We need to build through the draft, build through the draft, build through the draft. These guys are not right. They're drafting guys young and they're pushing these older linebackers, corners, safeties, all these guys out. We have Jamil Dean. Most people would be like, man, you might want to take a chance on Jamil Dean. I'm sure there'll be a lot of Raider creators that are saying, I'm gonna take a chance on Jamil Dean. 6 years experience, Tampa Bay Bucks, solid corner, 29 years old, but 13 mil. 13 mil for a corner. Okay, nah, hell no, hell to the no, no. For a 29-year-old corner, you have Jamie Ward, free safety, 34 years old. You have Denarius Slay, who I wanted last year, 35 years old. You have Jonathan Jones, 32 years old. See where I'm going with this? You have Amik Robinson as a free agent. Bring Amik back. Bring Amik Robinson back. You heard that here first. Bring Amik Robinson home. Please, please, please. Please bring Amik Robinson home. 5 years experience, 27 years old, making $4.5 million. Amik Robinson is a free agent, unrestricted free agent. Um, the Raiders, you gotta bring Amik back, man. We have been missing a slot corner since Amik left. And yes, sometimes he gives up the big plays, but he makes up for it every single time. And I would love to have Amik Robinson back. But other than that, man, you have Eric Stokes, 26 years old, 3.5 million. I would bring Eric Stokes back. Greg Newsome, 25 years old. He'll be a free agent from the Jaguars. Um, Other than that, God, Roger McQuarrie, from the Rams, 25 years old. I might take a chance on that. Rasul Douglas, man, I wanted Rasul Douglas last year. He hasn't been great in Miami, but he's a guy that would help. That I believe that would help this backfield. Kind of like Jamal Adams has done this year. But other than that, man, it gets less. These guys that are free agents are D Alford. I don't even know who the hell he is. Noah Igenbombing. I don't know who he is. Cam Taylor Britt. Abonte Maddox. To me, these are all guys, right? 3 years experience, 7 years experience, 3 years experience, and you're making $1 million. Like, I don't think these are guys or anybody the Raiders are going to take a chance on, right? Next position, we talked about the offensive line, we talked about linebackers, we talked about corner, and I believe all three of those positions need to be addressed in this draft because there's nobody. There's nobody here. Who you want? Who you want? Who you taking? You just gonna take shots and pay dudes like all kinds of money? We did safeties. There's no kickers. There's no punters. Let's go interior D lineman. I think we need a little bit of work on that. I think we got some dogs in Jonah Laulu. I think we got some dogs in Tonka Hemingway, JJ Pegues, right? I think we have some young talent there. Tyree Wilson looked hella good in the last game of the season. I think we got some young talent there, but you could always add one more. So, um, David Anone Matter for the Falcons, 9 years, 33 years old. See this trend? All these dudes that are free agents are all 30 or plus. DJ Reader, DJ Redder, defensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, 31 years old, 11 mil. Nah, Daquan Jones for Buffalo, 34 years old, 8 mil. John Franklin Myers, 29. Um, Larry Agonjabi, 31. Sebastian Joseph, 30. DJ Dunn. No, I don't know about DJ Dunn, man. I don't know what DJ Dunn's this year. Done this year. What DJ Dunn's done this year? Say that three times fast. But that might be worth looking at. That might be worth looking at. Cameron Jordan, 36 years old, right? Not going to help much. Colassus Campbell, 39 years old. Dude, there's nobody in here. There's nobody in here that's even under 34 on the defensive line wise. Jalen Phillips, 26 years old with the Eagles. Jordan Elliott. I mean, there's really no there's really no talent in this free agency. Like you're gonna have to go through the draft, right? So let's go through the draft. I mean, what better place to go through? And I told y'all we would talk offensive linemen because I had some sneaky linky offensive linemen. Not too sneaky link, but oh, close, bitch. So offensive linemen. There is a guy. There's a guy who knows a guy who knows a guy. Nah. But I told y'all, right? I told y'all the Las Vegas Raiders, their number one place they were scouting all season long was the Penn State. Was Penn State, not the Penn State, but was Penn State, right? And we were trying to figure out who it was. I told you it was an offensive lineman. Um, After watching a little bit more film, I really like this dude, man. 6'4", 330 pounds, runs a 5.340, which I don't think that matters speed wise. But Ola La Vega Lone, Ola La Vega Lone, the offensive guard for the Penn State. Um, Again, 6'4", 330. Man, this dude is a bulldozer in a run game. There's a couple things you got to work on, right? In the passing game, it looks like he tries to use his weight, in his strength a little bit too much, so he gets caught leaning forward. I think that's a problem, right? You need to be more of an anchor, um, be a little bit more solid, be a little bit more balanced. But if he gets his balance down in the run game, the man is pancaking dudes left and right, left and right. I thought he was working at IHOP. He made so many damn pancakes. I was like, everybody's on the ground. This dude is just, he's tackling everybody. So the physicality, the strength, the size is an absolute monster. And I know we talked about offensive line, and we have a lot of guards. But when you bring in a new coach that's going to evaluate this class, he might just say, let's trade him, let's trade him, let's trade him, trade him, trade him, and trade him too. JPJ, Jordan Meredith, Dylan Parham is a unrestricted free agent. So there could be a lot of guys on this line that nobody wants to coach because of the ugliness that was here last year, right? So if we're going offensive line, man, he is projected, first round, obviously. Um, but just a dog all around offensive lineman. We talked about Francis Muigoa. You will see him on Saturday, I do believe. They play on Saturday. I think Miami plays on Saturday. You will see him again. 6'6", 350 pounds. Just an athletic freak for an offensive lineman. And a dude to watch out for. We talked about Spencer Fano. And the more I watch Fano, I really like this dude. I think he could be, um, what was the guards that everybody wanted last year? The hell's his name? But anyways, reminds me of the same, bro. 6'6", only 202 pounds. So not a big overweight offensive lineman, more of a stronger physical guy. And I know on the offensive line, at the tackle position, 302 pounds, you're gonna deal with some strong ass dudes, and you might have to put some more junk in your trunk, right? But I really like Fano, and if it's a guy that they're looking at to move inside, I think we got enough guards on this team, right? I really think we need to evaluate the guards on this team from Lackey Tassie to Caleb Rogers to possible JPJ, Jordan Meredith. There's a lot. There's a lot. So um, another guy from Iowa, Jennings Dunker. I kind of like this dude a little bit too. He's a little bit physical, right? Tough, got decent footwork, good size, 6'5", 315 pounds, mammoth of a man. Definitely somebody we need to keep an eye on. And then Emmanuel Pragon from Oregon, 6'5", 318, is another one of those dudes that, you know, he was teammates with JPJ, right? He's had more penalties in college football this year than I think a lot of guards. I think he's up there at the top, but it's because of his physicality. It's because of his nastiness, right? It's not because he's just constantly jumping off sides. I think he's got a bunch of holding calls, but he has that JPJ in him. And what better, what better guy to draft than a guy that's played with JPJ at the guard position? Because right now we have Lackey Tassie, right guard. We have Caleb Rogers, right guard. We have Jordan Meredith, right guard. We have DJ Glaze, who should be a right guard. We have, you know, somebody else, Antonio Maffi, who is should be a right guard. Didn't play well at all on the left side. Looked pretty bad out there in the last two games. So we have four or five right guards. Can we make one of them a left guard, or do we just draft a left guard? That's his position. That's what he's played his whole career, right? And I know a lot of coaches teach versatility or preach. You got to have versatile guys on the line of scrimmage. Um, but do we really? Do we really? It didn't work out with Dylan Parham, right? Dylan Parham was the guy that could play center, right tackle. I mean, right guard and left guard, and played a little tackle in college. They had him at left tackle most of left guard all last year and right guard the year before. Didn't play much center, but when he played center when Andre James was hurt 2 years ago, Dylan Parham looked pretty good. Um, Jordan Meredith was a guy that could play, right tackle, right guard, left guard. They ended up putting him at center. Didn't make no sense. But versatility, it just didn't work out. JPJ, a guy that could play both guard positions and center, just he's injured all the time. So maybe they stop looking so much versatility and find some anchors that can anchor down a spot. And then maybe their backups, you go with versatility, right? Just my opinion. Just my opinion. Isaiah World, absolute freak of nature, 6'8", 318 pounds. Connor Liu is another guy that, some guys should be looking at, guys to watch. But I'm telling you, man, offensive lineman wise, the kid from Penn State, yes, he's going to take some time. Yes, he's going to need some work. But we have guys we've drafted the last 3 years that we can put in front of him, you know, why he develops. And we'll see next. I mean, next year is not a good year to look at the development of any players for the Las Vegas Raiders. But there are some, man. There are some. Now, let's look to the linebackers, right? Linebackers. Because we talked about one of the biggest needs on this, right? On this team is the linebacker position. We don't know what Tommy freaking Eichenberg could be, right? But he looked damn good when he was out there for the minimal reps he got. Cody Lindenberg, I think, is more physical than Tommy Eichenberg, and I think he's going to be a damn good, linebacker, or maybe not a starter, but a damn good sub next year, possibly. And other than that, right? Other than that, we have Jamal Adams is not a linebacker; he's a safety. We have Landon Roberts as a free agent and Devin White. So the linebacker core, we have Jamin Davis that I said they're gonna sign to a future contract for the Raiders. So coming out of this draft, man, you have Arvell Reese, right? A guy that's 6'4", 243, can play the edge, can play the left or can play wherever, right? Can play your Mike, he can play your Will, he can play your Sam, he can play your Jack, right? He can play whatever system you run. Um, at five, 4.5 2 speed, quick enough to get around and do what he's got to do. Um, I have Arvell Reese very, very high. And if the Raiders were to trade back, and it was to trade back to number 2 or 3, and you don't walk away with the Arvell Reese, I think it might be, another one of those failures. Next is Texas Tech's David Bailey, man, 6'3", 250. Um, and really, a lot of people have, Arvell Reese as that number one top dog. But I think I have David Bailey as 1A and 1B, right? I don't think these guys are in a tier, um, all of their own. And I would venture to put Sonny Styles, 6'4", 243, runs a 4.4, 840, and Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas, right? I would put these guys right up there. And even CJ Allen. I would even go as far as CJ Allen. I think the top 5 linebackers in this class should be first round potential. I mean, really, I really do. I think all of them are very, very solid trades. They're gonna help a team kind of like a Jared Verse did, right? With the Rams, right off the rip, turns out to be that guy. I think a lot of these guys could be like a, kind of a Jared Verse type. You could put in the middle as the mic and get to the quarterback. You can cover on the outside. So Anthony Hill Jr. definitely, definitely up there. And if I'm the Raiders, and I'm trading back, and I can't get a linebacker, Arvell Reese, or like I said, I'd probably even take David Bailey, depending on how far you trade back. You're probably not going to take a lot of these guys in the top 10, but some of them will fall like Jahad Campbell, right? Jahad Campbell, I had in the top 10 last year. I really thought that Jahad Campbell was worthy of a sixth overall pick last year, and I would have took him at sixth. Well, he fell to 31, and the Eagles jumped up a spot and took him. So, and he's had an 85 or an 87 grade all season long, all season long. So, Jahad Campbell, a lot of people slept on in the draft last year. And I was one of those dudes that kept saying, Jahad Campbell is going to be one of those ones, right? He's going to be one of those, not a Ray Lewis, right? But you don't know. He's got the speed, he's got the intensity, he is a tackling machine. And in a couple years, I mean, Duke could be a Ray Lewis type, right? Nobody's going to ever be Ray Lewis, but he could be one of those dudes. Shit, they had one right after Ray Lewis. The hell's his name? So there are some deep, deep linebackers in this class. C.J. Allen. I wouldn't be mad at Jake Golday. You know, Whit Weeks, Harold Perkins Jr. Like some of those guys you could get in the probably second and third. I don't think there's going to be 15 linebackers taken in the first two rounds, but there could be three or four. Definitely could be three or four, and possibly even five with the way this linebacker group's going. And I mean, y'all see all the free agents, right? You got every team has two free agent linebackers, and all of them are over 30. Raiders also need a number one. So if you're trading back, do you go wide receiver in the first round? I mean, when you're looking at guys like Jordan Tyson, 6'2", 200 pounds, runs a 4.5 40, not blazing speed, damn good route runner, comes down with everything, everything that touches his hands. Um, it's crazy. Other than Dablo, all the other players who left last year are all in the playoffs. I mean, it's not really crazy when you look at it. I had all those dudes as you know not franchise players, but those guys that build a franchise, right? Um, every single one of them, right? I didn't, I talk shit about Divine Diablo because the dude still can't tackle a mannequin in a department store. But other than Divine, even Marcus Epps, right? I don't know how Marcus Epps went to the Patriots and ended up getting cut, but yeah, it's crazy how all those dudes are in the playoffs. And Spike Tech made light of it, right? Shout out for the 99, 99, 99, 99 cent. Appreciate you keeping the lights on. Thank you very much with the star, whatever that means. Do you think linebacker is a bigger hole than slot corner? Yes, yes, I do. Yes, I do. Because I believe there's guys on this team that can play the slot role. If they don't get rid of Kai Blue Kelly, I think he was better. He would be a better slot corner than an outside corner, in my opinion. I think DeCamarion Richardson, you know, is a guy that's physical. He's a very good tackler. He has 4.3 speed. He's long, he's lengthy, and I think DeCamarion Richardson could fill that slot role. I just think it was bad coaching that we didn't have a slot, this year. I think Harper is okay, but I think we can get one in the draft if and let him compete. And again, you could get another corner in this draft in the first or second round that might take Darian Porter's spot, and maybe Darian Porter gets moved to the slot because with his size and his speed and his length, I said all year that if you're gonna continue to play Kai Blue Kelly on the outside, why the f is Darian Porter not playing slot? Because he only played 1 year in college. So what better guy to develop to play a position he's never played before in the NFL than a guy that's just learning the position at corner? So you want a guy to be versatile, right? So if I was Pete Carroll, I feel like Pete Carroll failed Darian Porter by not playing him at the slot position, by not playing him, you know, more even at safety once in a while. Put him at free safety. See how he is there, because with his size and his knowledge of the game and the as fast as he develops shit, right? Only playing 1 year in college as a corner, he played absolutely amazing to me for only having 1 year experience. Like there's some of these guys coming out of college have 3, 4, 5 years college experience being a corner or being just at the slot like Jahad Barron, right? Another guy I thought was worthy of a sixth overall pick, Jahad Barron. But so um yeah, a lot of these guys, man, a lot of these guys, and I feel like linebacker is a bigger need than slot corner right now. Deep wide receiver group. What round do you think you can snatch a star? I don't know about star. If you want a star receiver, you're probably gonna have to go first, second round. A lot of these guys are gonna be gone. Rosetown in the building, appreciate you. Um, you got names like Jordan Tyson, Carnell Tate, who entered the NFL draft. He's definitely going to be a first rounder, I think. Makai Lemon. A lot of people say, definitely first round, top 10 possibly. So, I mean, I wouldn't be mad at that. Um, Tennessee's Chris Basil the second. Some people have him compared to Dante Thornton. I don't even think that's even in the right category. I think he's a way better player, way better catcher of the ball. Good lord. Um, but a guy that I really, really like, and I keep talking about, is Denzel Boston. I really think Denzel Boston is one of those dudes that's um, I don't want to compare him to nobody, but I think he's one of those Tim Brown guys that you could get in the building, right? One of those guys that's going to be for you on your team for a long, long time. That's not going to be the most flashy, not going to be the fastest, but going to be the sneakiest dude that comes down with everything you throw. Um, I really like his hands, man. I like his strength. I like his speed, his route running, and I think his upside is just going to get better and better and better. And I like the hell out of Denzel Boston. Chris Bell, KC Concepcion, I like. I think Elijah Surratt would definitely be a damn good pick for the Raiders. If he falls to the third round, but I just don't see that. More than likely, he's gone in the second, possibly even first. Who knows what this? See if he goes to the Shrine Bowl or the Senior Bowl or what he does in the combine. Doesn't have the greatest speed, but 4.6 is not the fastest. But you got plenty of time to get that down to at least somewhere in a 4.4, right? You would want to see from your number one guy. Jacoby Lane, another guy. Jeremy Bernard, I think is a underrated receiver, man. I think a very underrated receiver at 6'1", 204 pounds. He's thicker, he's a stronger guy. Kind of reminds me of, um, a guy we got on the team. Like, uh, so I don't know, man. I don't know. I think all these guys, like, I haven't really gone through the completely through the wide receiver list, but I know there's some guys like who the hell am I looking for? Omar Cooper Jr., another Indiana guy that I think is going to surprise some people. Where the hell is he? LSU's Nick Anderson. Nick Anderson. I believe you can get a star in Nick Anderson. They have him ranked as the 21st overall best receiver on this list that I'm looking at right now at 6'4", 208. You know, had a problem with the quarterbacks with Nussmeier and shit, but I think Nick Anderson, man, anytime you could get an LSU receiver, you got to get an LSU receiver. And if this dude falls in the draft, if his draft stock slumps, that's the dude I'm picking at, any round, second, third, wherever he falls to, wherever you could get him. But you're gonna have to take him if he's there because he's not gonna last long. I don't know what they have him at right now. Let's see. Can I get anything on him? Um, Great height. Weight is a little light. It's in the yellow, but I don't know if that's light. 40 times, not in the orange. Where are we projected? Draft projection fifth. Damn. So yeah, I mean, damn good traits, right? Damn good traits. Intermediate routes, 84%. Short yardage receiving, not great, right? More of a long guy. Deep threat, only 59%. But watching this dude at LSU, I think with the quarterbacks he had and the problems that they had with Nussmeier getting benched, being hurt or whatever. I think he's a guy that's being slept on, definitely for sure. So there's a lot of receivers in here, and I don't know if there's any guys that are definite sleepers, but there is one guy that I do really really like, and I can't find him. Where the fuck is he? Damn, he's way down here. Shit, maybe he's not entering the draft. I don't know. But the receiving core, man, the receiving core. It's always hard to pick receivers, right? I mean, you can watch their routes, you can watch their get off, you can watch the attention to detail, in their route running and shit like that. You can watch their hands, the high point of the ball. But it's kind of hard to pick receivers, man, because depends on what team you're on, what scheme you're in, right? Are you gonna get a lot of looks? Are you gonna get um, just nothing but deep looks when you're better at running intermediate routes or shorter yardage routes? So I'll get into that a lot more again once we know who the hell is being drafted, who is going to enter the draft, who is not going to enter the draft. Once we know all that, then we'll get into all this shit a lot more for sure. If you want to be somebody, if you want to go somewhere, better wake up and pay attention, young man. To what? If I want to go, if I want to be somebody, I already am somebody. Um, okay, and I'll pay attention. Appreciate the advice. Uh, you got to go for the Bears and Packers game, Rebel. Bears and Packers. I'll probably be live for all of them, man. As long as they don't overlap, as long as they give us time in between, where I could do my thing and catch up. Cover the camera for Lamar Jackson edit. Make sure to hit those likes, thumbs up, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Being a Raiders fan should come with a therapist. It does. It does. I'm my own therapist. That's why I come on here. That's why I talk football for 2 hours with 10 people in here. It's my therapy, dog. Like, so I think I got a therapist. It's y'all. How do you afford these coaches? Aren't you still paying Gruden? They're still paying Gruden. They're still paying Dick Daniels. They're still paying now Pete Carroll $30 million over the next however many years they decide to do it. But when you're a multi-billionaire When you're worth $33 billion, I don't really think $50 million means shit to him. I think they're all paying Gruden. Yeah, we have a lot, a lot. If you put coaches, like if you put all coaches that go on to a single staff, they'd have a hell of a team already. That's facts. That's facts. Surratt will make it into the second round, but he won't drop to the third. I don't see him going past that. I don't. I definitely don't. And it's a deep receiver class, so it could be one of those classes where there's no quarterbacks, there's not too many offensive linemen, right? Who else do you take in the first round? It could be a class where there's 7, 8, 9, receivers taken in the first. I mean, I'm brother as a Raiders fan. Nice. FKC, that's what I'm talking about. Gruden at head coach would you got Pete as defensive back coach and AP coaching the linebackers, McDaniels running the offense. I get it, bro. That would be sick. Gruden, the head coach, Pete, the DB coach, Antonio Pierce, the linebacker coach, and McDaniels running the offense. What could have been? What could have been, right? Hi, Beardy Beard. Okay. Raiders brass is dumb as. Yeah, I get it. I get it. Who you rooting for the Bears and Packers game? I'm rooting for the Bears. I'm rooting for the Bears. Do you like Shohei Otani and just the greatest player, in Dodgers year or two? Yeah, I kind of like him a little bit. Geo Mex in the building. Appreciate you. Raider Menace in the building. Um, Rebel, would you go? Would you go with John if they get Lamar here? I'm not mad. I'm not opposed. I'm not opposed to the John Harbaugh. He's not. He's not the number one on my list. You know, and unless he's number one on the Raiders list, somebody else is going to snag him up. He's not going to stay around long. So they need to make a decision if he's number one on their list. And if Harbaugh's number one on their list, then don't beat around the bush. Just go get him. But I'm kind of liking the youth. And honestly, I mean, if you look at the time Lamar Jackson had with John Harbaugh, I think it's time for a change for both of them, right? He couldn't get over the hump. They couldn't win in the playoffs. He made him a better quarterback. He made him a better pocket passer. But I just don't think Lamar and John would be the way the Raiders' way. So I'm gonna have to say no. I'm gonna have to say no. Um, you my guy, Doug. Appreciate you. Lamar 74 and 5 million cap hit. Yeah, I'm not taking on that. He's not worth that. Was never worth that. Who's number one on my list for what? Coaches? Number one on my list for coaches? It's still Mike LaFleur. I'm still on the Mike LaFleur train. Uh I think LaFleur is going to be the guy I'm hoping to see, in an interview pretty soon. And if he doesn't make the list, then I guess I'm gonna have to stop talking about him because 3 years in a row, I've been trying to get Mike LaFleur to be the damn head coach for the Las Vegas Raiders, and it hasn't worked yet. So that's my number one. That's my number one. I like the McVay tree. I think the coaches that come out of there, Zach Robinson, uh, Stefanski, everybody that's coaching right now, pretty much. Mike LaFleur would groom Mendoza. I think he could. I don't. I think he's learned a lot from McVay in his time on how to get the best out of quarterbacks. So I think it would be. I think it'd be a damn good way to go, right? Just my opinion. But I think Mike LaFleur would help Mendoza. I think he would help Ty Simpson. I think he would help Carson Beck. And like I said, bro, like I said, I'm gonna get off here. I'm gonna leave y'all with this. My top three coaches are very easily. It's Mike LaFleur. I believe it's Clint Kubiak, and then I'm gonna have to go a different way than everybody else that nobody's talking about. I think this Webb guy makes a damn good offensive coordinator, and I think that's why they brought him in. But I don't think he's gonna leave the Broncos to just be an offensive coordinator. I think you have to offer Davis Webb a head coaching job to get him underneath uh, Sean McVay. I'm not Sean McVay under Sean Payton, right? So I like this dude. I think if the Raiders bring him in for another interview, it says a lot. But I like the youth movement. I really like the youth movement. I like Thomas Brown. A lot of people aren't talking about, and you know, I've heard that it's a name to be watching in this coaching cycle. But there's a lot of coaching, coaches that have well-known names, not like a Thomas Brown, but Thomas Brown. Look at the Patriots. Look what he's done with Drake May. Look at the passing game over there. Look at the experience he's learning from with Vrabel. Look at the experience Thomas Brown is getting from a Josh McDaniels, right? Look at all those things. Thomas Brown is the quarterback coach. He's the passing game coordinator, and he was also, under Eberflus. He was the quarterback coach there. They made him the passing game coordinator. Then they made him offensive coordinator, and then he ended up taking over the head coaching job when Eberflus got fired. So very, very brilliant mind from what I get and all the info I've done on him, all the back research that I've done. Talked very, very highly, and by a lot of the people in the NFL coaching circle. So Thomas Brown is another name to watch out for, and I don't know. I don't think Mentor is up there. I wouldn't be mad at Harbaugh, but there's a couple names. There's a couple names to watch out for, and we'll see what goes from there. What about Flores and the ball as OC? Well, I mean, if you follow my channel somewhere up here, like, subscribe, follow, you would already know how I felt on that. No, I'm just kidding. Uh, I said this 2 weeks ago. Now I know it just came out all over X, and I know it just came out all over the internet, and I know all the big time gurus in this business are now jumping on it. But I talked about it 2 weeks ago, and I don't know if that's why it hit or that's why it's blowing up. But it doesn't, you know, it's not a bad idea. I'm not huge on the fact of Flores being head coach. I'm not huge on the way people say he's burned bridges, after he left Miami. I'm not huge on what I'm hearing from the little birdie in my ear on what's going on in Minnesota and why he's not being retained there. So, his contract's up as the DC there. Um, there's a lot about Brian Flores. There's a lot about Brian Flores that's going around that a lot of people don't know. And, Max Crosby. Max Crosby. Speaking of Max Crosby said on an interview, softest shit I ever heard. Max Crosby said when he was a rookie, Miami was one of the teams that brought him in for a visit. Who was the coach? It was Brian Flores. Who was the DC? It was Patrick Graham at the time. Well, Crosby went on to say that he called his agent and said, tell Miami not to draft me and take me off of their draft list. Why? Because Brian Flores was too tough on Max Crosby. Not my words. Max Crosby's words himself. The coaching staff was too rough on me. They were way too hard. And I told my agent I didn't want to be here for them to call them and tell them to take me off the list. So Brian Flores is a hard ass. So hard that Max Crosby didn't want to be a part of the Miami Dolphins or be drafted there, even though, that could have been one of the only teams that could have drafted him. And he said the only person he liked there or vibed with was Patrick Graham. So the fact that, he's a hard ass like that, the fact that Crosby is still in the building, I've talked about Crosby not being a part of this team and then Mike moving on from Crosby. If they do decide that Max Crosby doesn't want to be here and the Raiders move on from Crosby and Flores gets an interview, look for him to possibly be that guy. So I think, if you clean house and you make some other decisions, Brian Flores, but I don't believe Brian Flores is a name for the Raiders. It was just a name I came up with Flores and the ball that I thought would work and would be, a great staff just because of the fact that they've worked with Tom Brady. They won Super Bowls with Tom Brady on the coaching staff with the Patriots, right? And I said that name a couple, like a week and a half ago, and now it's surfaced and blown up and gone crazy, and it is what it is. But um, it makes sense, right? If you can get Crosby out of the building, or if you can get Crosby on board, a hard ass that's going to turn the culture around, that's going to hold guys accountable. But who's he going to bring in as his staff, right? If he's a guy that's talking about burning bridges, who's Flores going to call to say, hey, I need a quarterback coach, I need a defensive back coach, I need a linebacker coach, right? Does he have people that are willing to come with him to the Raiders? And for that, I don't think that Flores is as high as a candidate as everybody thinks on this coaching list. But if you get a guy like Dayball, right? The quarterback whisperer, so called. We all know what he did with Dart. We all know what he did with Josh Allen. If you can bring in that guy with the Flores, I think it could work because now Flores knows you have a former head coach that is an offensive coordinator, and if you mess up and it doesn't work, you got a guy that's trying to take your job. So that could possibly work out. I just don't see Brady being the one to pull the trigger on that. There's also Brady and Flores type things going on. Um, so I'm gonna have to say no on that. I thought the Raiders were going to be better because they beat my Patriots easily in the opener. Wow, I was wrong. It's the first game. You catch teams slipping, right? And when you catch teams slipping and they don't have much tape on you, they don't have much tape on your offensive coordinator, they don't have much tape on Geno Smith, you know, with this system, with the Chip Kelly system, they just caught them off guard, and they got lucky in the second half. I think they made some adjustments which they failed to do the rest of the year, and they beat the Patriots, but it woke the Patriots up and turned that team around. So I hope they try and get Brian Flores for Harbaugh. I don't think Brian Flores is it though. I'm gonna say that. I just don't think Brian Flores is gonna be the guy. I don't think it's gonna be Jesse Mentor. I don't think. I really don't think it's gonna be Kubiak. I think the Raiders head coach for 2026 is gonna be a surprise name that nobody's expecting, and people are gonna be like, "What the hell?" That's what I'm getting out of it. Because there's a lot of those names out there, and Spytek, right? He's been with the Broncos. He's been with the Bucks. He's been with the Eagles. He has a lot of names. Brady doesn't. Brady's played football. He's he's worked with a lot of assistants, so I'm sure he's got a lot of names out there. So we'll see who these dudes can pull in. Definitely would get him a line for sure. Maybe even Kubiak. I'm also Mike McCarthy, 8 division titles. I'm not mad at Mike McCarthy either. I think if you're trying to build a culture again, if you're trying to turn a franchise around from the bottom, Mike McCarthy makes sense. All he's done is win. His quarterbacks are always top 10 in the NFL in all the stats. Their teams are, always win 12 games, it seems like. They're always in the playoffs. I mean, I like McCarthy, but I'm still kind of stuck on the youth movement. Mike McCarthy can go somewhere else, bro. No thanks. See, and I think that's the problem with Raider Nation, right? Because we already see fans saying, "Oh, fuck Jim Harbaugh, fuck John Harbaugh," right? Harbaugh cannot be the guy. Screw McCarthy. But these dudes have all had success somewhere else, right? We did the same thing last year with 2 years ago with Jim Harbaugh. Oh, we don't want Jim Harbaugh. Screw Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh's trash. Jim Harbaugh has the Chargers in the playoffs the last 2 years. We did the same thing with Vrabel. Nobody wanted Vrabel. I was one of those. Nobody wanted Vrabel. No, no, we can't have Mike Vrabel. Fuck the Patriot way. It's never gonna work. You can't do the Patriot way. They're in the playoffs. They're one of the best teams in the NFL. So Raider Nation is constantly not willing to take coaches in because of some stupid ass shit in a Patriot way or the Seattle way or whatever the hell the excuses are, bro. But I think we need to start doing a little bit more homework on these guys instead of just saying we don't want them because Mitchell Renz don't want them, or we don't want them because Graphic Raider don't want them, or we don't want them because Wasted Talent don't want them, right? I think we need to do more homework on these guys and just watch games that they coach, right? Just do research and figure out, do you want these guys? Because nobody should be saying John Harbaugh, no way. I mean, with his track record, right? Nobody should have been saying no way to Vrabel. He won way more games than he lost in his career. He did a hell of a job at Tennessee. The dude won with what the hell is that sorry ass quarterback that everybody was trying to get, Ryan Tannehill. The dude made it to the playoffs with Ryan Tannehill and was this close to a Super Bowl. So, you know, a lot of people don't want a lot of these coaches for what reason I don't know. But I was the same way with Vrabel. I was the same way with Jim Harbaugh, and I was wrong about both of those guys. So I'm expanding my mind this year. I'm doing a broader search. I'm not closing my shit like I did. Same thing with the quarterbacks. The last couple years, I didn't want I didn't want Dylan Gabriel. I didn't want Shador. I wasn't a Cam Ward guy, right? This year, man, I'm open minded, open minded. If it's Fernando, it's Fernando. If it's Ty, it's Ty. I really can't do shit about it. But come on here and give my opinion, and it doesn't seem to matter. It doesn't seem to matter because we're always asked. Nothing changes. But yeah, Mike McCarthy's track record speaks for itself, man. He's great with quarterbacks. He's good with offenses, and maybe it's been the owners is why these coaches have been not what they are supposed to be, right? We act like every NFL football team is just the greatest place on earth and everybody wants to go coach for them. Well, Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh, when he was fired yesterday, you know who one of the first teams was to call him? I told y'all, 10 teams called. There's only 7 head coaching vacancies. So that means 4 teams that still have a coach were willing to get rid of their coach to bring in Harbaugh for an interview. That says an awful lot. Teams that already have coaches are willing to fire a guy for a Harbaugh. That says a lot. But the Jets reached out to Harbaugh's agent or to Harbaugh himself and said, "Hey, I know we have Aaron Glenn, but we are more than willing to move on from Aaron Glenn if you'll come in for an interview, if you would think about taking the job." And Jim Harbaugh or John Harbaugh said, "Don't even waste your time. don't even waste your time. I'm not coming in for an interview." So there are many organizations like that coaches won't go to, and the Raiders are starting to be one of those. Iron Mike McCarthy might work, but I think he needs an established team. Yeah, but as long as he's been in the NFL and the people he's worked with, I think he can put together a great staff, right? I think he has before. And it's just another guy that, he gets to the playoffs, can't get over the hump. So again, I don't dislike any of these coordinators, but I want to go with the youth movement. I liked it. It didn't work out, but I liked it when we had Lane Kiffin, right? It was at least fun to watch. We thought there was hope. I liked it when we had John Gruden. I liked it when we had Hugh Jackson, right? I loved it when we had Hugh Jackson. Maybe y'all ain't been Raider fans that long, but when we had Hugh Jackson, this team was fun to watch, bro. We didn't have the greatest team, right? We didn't have the best players. We didn't have the best drafted players, but it was fun. It was fun. It was exciting. There was a coach that was young that could grow with this team and become something. Instead of taking these old ass coaches over and over and over and over again and thinking it's going to work. I mean, if you're going to fail, why not fail with somebody that at least that at least has a chance to be better, right? So let's just go young. Let's go young. Florin has a bad reputation. Ryan Fitzpatrick said some bad things about Flores. Facts. I didn't see that. But if Ryan Fitzpatrick is saying bad shit about Flores, you could best believe there's probably some bad shit to be said. If Max Crosby was saying, they treated him like shit and were rough on him and he didn't want to go there, there's probably a reason. So no lie, Max doing emotional shit though. I fucking love that guy, but let's be real. What? No lie, Max be doing emotional shit though. That's pretty. I mean, yeah, that's pretty weak, bro. To have an opportunity to be drafted in NFL, and you were only drafted in the fourth round, so it's not like everybody was on the phone beating down Max Crosby's door to draft the guy, and to just be like, nah, I don't want to be with this team because they're too rough on me. That's crazy talk. That's crazy talk. I bet if we move on in another direction, more than a defensive one, considering we have the Brown, Bowers, Genty, JPJ, if we play him right. I think so too, man. I think so too. The Patriots will take Max Crosby. I'm sure they will. I'm sure there's 31 teams in the NFL right now that is holding up two first round picks. I'm sure. And then go from there. I know a lot of people are saying I'm crazy. You're not going to get two first rounds from Max Crosby, but I say the same thing to you, fool. You crazy. You crazy if you think Max ain't getting two first rounds. So there's a lot of teams. The Patriots, that would definitely put them over the hump with the team they got over there. They got one thing Max Crosby hasn't had since Derek Carr: a quarterback and a coach. John Gruden, Derek Carr, right? Max Crosby hasn't had that. He never had a defense when he had that. He didn't have the pieces around him. Maybe they could get the pieces around him. Bro, the Raiders honestly will probably get Flores because of the bull BS. LOL. Let's be honest with our history. I don't know. I don't want to say that no more. I think Mark Davis has made stupid decisions, but I think with Spytek being in the building, and a lot of people said I was crazy last year when I said this. I believe that John Spytek is one of those ones. I like the way this dude thinks. I like his mindset. I like the fact that he says, I ain't afraid to tell Tom Brady you're wrong. I ain't afraid to tell Tom Brady I don't believe in, that's the right direction to go. I like the fact that he sticks up for himself, or at least he said, right? And like he said, he thinks that's why Tom Brady likes him. He's not afraid to tell him, nah, bro, I don't think that's the way to go. So I think we got one in the building, man. And if Spytek has the 5 years that he was promised, that is his contract, 5 years, I'm willing to say the Raiders win a Super Bowl within that 5 years. I think Spytek will get us a Super Bowl. I really do. I think with him and Brady in the building, collabing, if they find the right head coach, I think before Spytek's contract is up in 5 years, the Raiders are in a Super Bowl. Kubiak is definitely a great candidate. What's your thoughts on Pete Carroll? What do you do? Mike isn't doing it in one off season, bro. Thoughts on Pete Carroll? I think Pete Carroll should have been fired earlier in the season. That's all. I think he made way too many bad choices that have set this team back for the next 3 years, and it's going to be hard to recover. It's going to be hard to recover. We wasted 2 years of Brock Bowers. We wasted a year of, 2 years of JPJ. We wasted 2 years of the development of DJ Glaze. We wasted a year of Ashton Genty and Jack Besh's development, and you know Dante Thornton and Caleb Rogers and just the last two draft classes have been wasted with no development with Pete Carroll. So what about that hoodie? What about what hoodie? What hoodie? Do we want a younger coach to bring in fresh players on the team? I think that's the way to go, man. I think a young coach, with a different mindset, that could get these guys to follow him. I think that's the way to go. Pete Carroll, isn't he old like Pete Carroll? John Harbaugh, I mean, he's 62, I believe. So, I mean, that's kind of old, but it's not much older than me. The players brought into Vrabel. Football is fun again. May is amazing. Yes, yes. And the Raiders need to do the same thing. I would love to see the Raiders and Cowboys good again because it's good for the NFL. Facts. Haven't heard about the Jets and Harbaugh, but the Jets are ass. Yeah, yeah. The Jets, yeah, that was the Jets called Harbaugh right away and he turned them down. So, no, no, I ain't even coming in for an interview. The Raiders were Madden. Facts. Raiders. Sorry, Rebel didn't get to answer the question. Yeah, the Bears. Belichick is a hoodie. His girl's a hoodie. But, all right, man. I've been on here way too long. 2 hours and 35 minutes. I don't know why y'all do this to me. Um, but I appreciate y'all rocking with your guy for this long. Pull up tomorrow. We have some more fun shit to talk about and break down. I appreciate you all. As always, much love. Take care of yourself, your mind, your body, your family, your friends, and everybody around you. And as always, Raiders. Peace. Much love, y'all. Don't waste your time with Belichick. Brady won those Super Bowls. Oh, we all know. I already know. I already know. Belichick is washed up, done. Pete Carroll done, and you might say the same thing about Harbaugh, but I'm willing to take that chance. So